Okay, we're streaming live to social. Let me check.
Okay, thank you. Let me press this button here and we'll start. All right, everybody. We're back. Lance Luke and Martin Pea. We have an interesting topic that applies to a lot of people, not only in Hawaii, but in the United States and around the world. We're going to be talking about coastal erosion around the world, the vanishing shores. And thank you for those who signed up and are logged in on our Zoom platform. Welcome. And then also those of you who are on social media, we're restreaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And it's a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while now. Um, I didn't know it was this critical, but it is. So let's go right to some slides here. I'm gonna skip this. National Building Expert. This webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, which is a construction management building inspection company located in Honolulu, Hawaii. Um, Believe it or not, we travel throughout the United States and in some parts of the world doing uh, different types of inspections and projects and writing books and stuff. So we're not just limited to Hawaii. And the coastal erosion issue, believe it or not, has been known for a while now, since like the 70s when I was in high school. Geez, I feel kind of old now. Martin, how about you? Okay,
Yeah.
you're older than me. So anyway, when I was in high school, I never knew about this coastal erosion. Although when I was younger, we used to go to Kailua Beach, and during different seasons, we noticed that the sand had severely eroded, especially Kailua, Lanikai area. Um, there's a canal that connects, goes all the way to the beach, and some seasonal times we noticed we could see the roots of the ironwood trees and all that. And then when it was full sand, you know, no roots were visible. But I didn't think anything of it. Then now I'm thinking this is probably part of the situation. And there's countries that are having severe erosion problems. And we're talking about um, big big areas: Australia, Canada, China, Mexico, Chile, United States, UK, and Gambia are some of the countries. But almost every country that's in a coastal area is affected. So I don't have too many slides, but just give you a overview, broad brush idea of what's happening, and then I'll do a summary that kind of covers more information in addition to what's on the slides. So, um, thank you for those of you attending from all over the world, because even if you not affected because you don't live in near the beach or the coastal area, you're still really affected because this problem affects everybody. So let's go right to it. What is coastal erosion? What's the definition? Well, you know what erosion is, right? You have a solid rock or solid dirt area, and through different factors, weathering and whatnot, it starts eroding the soil or the rock or whatever kind of substrate we're talking about. So, coastal erosion is a process by which local sea level rise, wave action, and coastal flooding wear down or remove shoreline materials like sand, soil, and rock. So imagine whatever is at the beach area that's not water or sand um, will get eroded eventually by the ocean. It could be the wind, heavy wind, and the water just wearing down the shoreline materials. So it doesn't matter if it's hard sand, soil, or rock. It just gets worn down. Hard rock also gets worn down, as evidenced by if you ever went to a river and you look at the river rocks, the rocks are smooth. It didn't used to be that way. It got smooth through the water current and years of um, the water moving these rocks around, and eventually it gets smooth. It's like you have sharp pieces of glass, like beach glass. The glass was actually sharp, but it kept getting grinded down by the sand and the waves, and eventually the pieces of glass become smooth. So that's why the beach glass is all smooth, and that's from basically the grinding, and you could call it erosion if you want. So the key drivers in this whole problem is rising sea levels due to climate change. And if you don't believe in sea level rise or you don't believe in climate change or anything, that's fine. But it's happening, right? And it's been proven by the government and scientists and all that. Also, lately, have you noticed that we're having more stronger and more frequent storms? So 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we never had these kind of storms. We never had this kind of major wildfires and natural disasters, hurricanes and tornadoes and things like that. So um, the world is changing, and that's why they say it's climate change. Now, the other factor is, in addition to the natural factor, there's human activities, including coastal development and people who are trying to preserve their beachfront property, but they're doing things that are not consistent with what the government wants. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Why does it all matter? Well, this whole issue of coastal problem, we have threatened ecosystems, property, and infrastructure. So imagine you have a nice, calm beach and you have nice coral and fish and everything. Now, when there's a major storm, what happens, right? Everything gets thrown out of whack. So you have heavy rain on land, and now what happens is there's so much water, the water ends up pushing the dirt, rocks, and debris and everything into the ocean. And now all of a sudden your beautiful coral reefs are covered with silt and soil, and the coral reef can't survive, right? Because it gets smothered. There's no sunlight. And then what happens if the coral reef dies? No fish is going to want to come around, right? So it's a bigger problem than what people think. The other thing is, anytime you have more erosion and sections of the beach getting eroded away, it leads to loss of public beaches and also habitats. So not only for humans, but for fish and other ocean creatures, crabs and moss and things like that. So key factors driving coastal erosion. There's natural factors, like I mentioned, there's wave energy and seasonal patterns. Last year, I was up at in California at a beach close to San Luis Obispo, and there's 3 piers, and only one of them is working. 2 of them got damaged by a storm, and I guess the government had no money to fix the pier up, so it can't be used right now. So that's been an issue. And then also climate change effects, rising sea levels and stronger storms create more havoc toward um, not only the beachfront, but also any kind of structure like piers, bridges, roads, and those kind of things. Hard structures like seawalls and groins disrupt natural processes. And you could see that in different beaches, and that's a human factor. Urbanization and development in coastal areas, whenever there's more development, more building near the coast or right at the beach, basically, that becomes an issue too. Okay, now is I guess it's human nature. People like the water, they want to be there. Waterfront property, oceanfront property, beachfront property. You want to live in a condo that has nice views of the ocean, and it's all over, everywhere. Every big city you go, there's these high-rise buildings, office buildings, and condos that have nice views of the ocean, and they're built either right on the ocean, close to the beach, or near the vicinity. So if you're located in Hawaii and you know where Kaka'ako is and Waikiki, you got all these hotels and condos that basically are built right on the beach. Even if it's 500 yards away, it's still considered basically oceanfront or coastal. Ala Moana Shopping Center is steps away from Magic Island and Ala Moana Beach Park. That's considered coastal property, right? So all the Kaka'ako areas, same thing. Let's talk about global statistics. Average annual recession of 3 to 10 feet in vulnerable areas globally. 3 to 10 feet, can you imagine that? So an average person is between 5 to 6 feet high in height. Martin is not average because he's over 6 feet. So, but imagine a regular human standing, and then the height of the erosion is higher than a human because we're talking the maximum around 10 feet, right? So this is a pretty big thing. And also increased storm intensity accelerates damage. So you've seen pictures, videos when there's major storms, hurricanes, and all that affecting different areas, and you find out that you got huge areas that are basically underwater, right? In Louisiana, New Orleans, practically that whole city was underwater, and Florida, when they have major hurricanes and all that, there's proven facts to back this stuff up. Now let's talk about some key examples of coastal hardening efforts and impacts. And we're talking about the island of Kauai in Hawaii, cocoa palms, which is a development that's just been abandoned. The buildings have been abandoned for many, many years. And there's pros and cons. The developer wants to build the project, and the local residents say no, they don't want it for different reasons. Okay, so there's a proposed project of building a seawall and breakwater using what's called a sand saver plastic structures to trap sand. The concerns, risks of debris, pollution after storms, disruption of natural sand flow, the outcome expected to accelerate erosion and negatively affect nearby beaches. Now, let me talk about the sand saver structures. Basically, these huge, uh, what looks like barricades. Like when you're driving on the road and there's traffic and you see these huge plastic barricades, it sort of looks like that, except there's tapered holes. It's like these modular contraptions with taper holes in it. Each one weighs about 5,200 pounds. What happens, it gets filled with sand and water, um, and then the sand goes through the holes after it fills up the module. And then because of the way the tapered holes are, the sand can't go back out into the ocean. It ends up staying basically where it is. So that's the idea. It's not made out of any kind of concrete or metal rebar that can rust. Concrete can break apart. Um, so it's an idea. I mean, in 19 between 1960 1970, this company that invented it, there was a different name called Sand Grabber, and then in 2011 it changed to Sand Saver. It's basically the same kind of principle of kind of saving the sand and not having it kind of wash away and erode away. Okay. Um, you heard of Sunset Beach, Oahu? That's a nice surfing spot, but guess what? Uh, it's good surf, but it's bad for homes who are on the beach. I actually inspected a house that fell into the ocean, basically, and it was on the news and everything. But it's been problematic. And we're talking about North Shore on the island of Oahu. It's a nice scenic spot, good surf. You got good food. You got all these food trucks there. But the downside is you have this erosion problem. So what happens is the residents who live on Sunset Beach, right on the ocean, they're getting blasted with losing their property, losing sand, um, and it's eroding away. So they decide that the temporary solution is to add more sand by filling up what's called burritos. So they have these big canvas type bags, fill it up with sand, and it's called a sand burrito. And you know, you don't eat it; it's used to secure your property. So it's placed in front of homes to reduce erosion. In the case of when your home is on beachfront property and the front of your house is not at the beach, it's placed in the backyard, your backyard, in back of your house, not in front. Now, I understand people need to protect their house and property, but the legal issue is there's a law in Hawaii that prohibits permanent shoreline amarine. However, emergency exceptions allow temporary walls and sandbags. So people who live on the coast and they're having their sand eroded away and their houses are really suspect to getting damaged, they're taking measures, uh, installing big rocks, pouring concrete, uh, bringing in huge trees and whatever they need to do. And some of them don't have permission to do that, and they get cited, and it becomes a legal issue. In 19, um, excuse me, in 2024, there was an enforcement. This was last year. Homeowners fined up to $1 million for unapproved seawalls and sandbags. So you cannot just bring in big rocks or big, huge trees or fill concrete or build walls and all that without the government approval. So they're very strict. Impact of hardening on beaches in Hawaii. Hard structures reflect wave energy, causing sand to be pulled offshore. over 70% of the beaches in Hawaii are under threat due to rising sea levels and hardening process. For example, Waikiki Beach, they've done it several times. When so much sand eroded away, they had to actually bring in more sand and fill up the beach. And there's a term that they use, and it's called beach nourishment. And it's nothing to do with like eating and nourishing your body. That's just some kind of terminology they use to some kind of fancy term of just putting more sand back on the beach. And does it work? No, it doesn't, because you bring in more sand and the ocean just eventually erodes it away. And next thing you know, you got to fill it up again. Okay, so it's just a constant situation. Coastal erosion in the United States, Alaska, Shishmaref, Alaska. I haven't been there, but I've done some research, and there's a lot of erosion there, and people actually had to move out of areas that were too close to the ocean. I also heard from somebody that this is a good place for looking at northern lights and things like that. So that's just something that I wanted to present. And then Dana Point, California, I actually went there maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and the photos that you see are real photos. It's kind of crazy, and you wonder how do these people build multi-million-dollar mansions on cliffs that now cliffs are eroding away. So there was a important event in 2024. There was a severe winter storm, and it caused landslides and cliff collapse. Some of the houses actually were sliding down the hill, or if you look, they were like ready to fall down. And they're talking about some erosion projections. Coastal retreat is expected to accelerate to 10.5 feet per year by 2100 due to rising sea levels. So we do a lot of research on these subjects, and there's no indication that this is going to stop at any time or not get as bad as the projections. Okay, so it's going to get worse, not better. Pacifica, California, if you drive down Pacific Highway 101, there's some coastal areas where the highway is so close to the ocean, and they have to do major repairs. So it's just happening all the time. The future risks, up to 75% of California beaches could vanish by the end of the century. That's a scary thought. And what happens with the people living in the coastal areas, right? What do they do, right? You can't just pick up your house and move it up on a mountain, right? Unless it's a mobile home or something. Here's a global perspective on coastal erosion. In Germany, there's erosion at a rate of 3 feet per year with significant cliff collapse. In January 2024, threatening buildings and habitats. In Mexico, they lost 98 feet of coastline in 2023 due to rising sea levels and storms. So this is a real thing. Leaving the village on the brink of disappearing. In Fiji, faces 4.9 feet of land loss per year. The government's relocating vulnerable communities and providing financial support through a trust fund. Okay, that's good. And Venice, Italy, rising sea levels. But Venice, Italy, and I've been there, and it's not because they have millions of tourists that the area is sinking. It was built actually on these wooden stilts, so the Venice city is actually floating on water, basically. So if you look further and investigate, that's what's happening. So eventually the wood may rot and buildings gonna start sinking. Alternatives to hard structures, green infrastructure solutions, beach nourishment, which is bringing more sand in and filling it up, dune stabilization, wetland restoration. This is all things that could help. Green solution advantages, preserve natural sand movement, reduce long-term erosion risks, minimal environmental impact compared to hard structures. So what we're talking about is you don't just go and build walls or pile big rocks because you're changing the way the waves hit the shoreline. So once you start making these changes, then you're making things worse in a majority of the situations. So basically, let me briefly let you know where I'm coming from on this and some more information. So there's definitely climate change, wave energy, and human interference, as I mentioned before. The global hotspots, right, of coastal erosion, we're talking about Hawaii, Alaska, Venice, Germany, Mexico, and basically anywhere in the world that has coastal areas are affected. Okay, the impact of erosion on ecosystems and communities, loss of land, loss of property, loss of value to your property. There's an economic strain because what's happening with tourism, fisheries, and any kind of business that's near the ocean, near coastal areas. You're going to have loss of habitat, cultural displacement. Maybe you have, uh, traditional things, and now you're going to lose it because the property is basically eroding away. So the mitigation of coastal erosion is there's natural based solutions, strategic relocation, global collaboration, and public awareness. So the reason why we're doing this webinar is to basically give public awareness that this is what's happening and it's not going to get any better. The situation is going to get a lot worse. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to say. So if you live in oceanfront property, beachfront property, just be aware if it's not happening now, it's going to happen in the future. And that's not only me saying that, that's scientists saying that, there's the government saying, there's a lot of governmental agencies that are involved in this situation. Even NASA is involved. So you can do more research if you're interested. Before we get to the Q&A, I got some things to discuss. We have a website. If you don't know, it's called askbuildingexpert.now.site, and every single one of our webinars, we post it so you can watch it at no charge, and whatever handouts are available. And we've given a lot to date, so I'll go down the list shortly. What's coming up? We have interesting webinars in July, reading and understanding cell reports, and we're talking about the Florida building collapse. What's the latest on that one? And then in August, what happens after a flood, remediation versus reconstruction? And then we just added, or we're going to add another important webinar in August. The subject is going to be what is the definition of good workmanship in construction? And that's going to be an important one. And then if you go to our website, we have a whole list of other webinars that we're giving, but that's what's coming up. And then if you visit our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site, we have many websites. We call it expert websites of different topics from asphalt, fire, life safety, painting, waterproofing, concrete spalling, contractor licensing. We have one on the Lahaina wildfire, and we're working on LA wildfire as we speak. So those are many expert websites. You can get free information. We have our National Building Expert blog also. And in the webinars, like I mentioned, we got so many different subjects. I think we covered most everything, but if you think of a good topic you want us to talk about, reach out to us and we'll be able to consider that for future webinars. Right now, we have the schedule pretty much set. Can't believe half the year is over already. It's crazy how things go. And then right now, we're offering whatever books you want that's available on our website to download for free. And we're going to change that shortly because all the books are available on Amazon. And since Martin and I need lunch money, we're going to switch it to, if you want a book, you're going to have to buy it. But for right now, take advantage. We've got senior safety in the home, asphalt reconstruction, cast iron drain piping, how safe is your building. We call that book one. That's the first book that started this whole series of books, monster houses, concrete spalling, Lahaina wildfire. The last count was close to 60 books that are written and published on Amazon so far. So I'm not stopping. I like to write. I like to disseminate the information, so help people. So that's our whole purpose. We have another expert website called Construction Expert, and you can go to that one. And now we're at the Q&A. So you got questions, we got answers. So my information is listed here on the screen. Lance Luke at hawaiibuildingexpert.com. My phone number is 808-754-3425. Gee, almost forgot my phone number. Okay, so let me bring up Martin and let's see if we have any questions that came up. So Martin, are you around?
Yes, Lance, I'm still here. Interesting.
Okay, good. So let me stop share here and then we'll get to the Q&A. So hopefully there's questions that came up.
We've got some that have been submitted from different sources, some earlier, and we can hit those.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I don't see any questions on the Zoom right away, but if you do have, feel free to ask Lance. So something that's coming up earlier here is I know they seem kind of technical or types of questions, but let's hit them. The first one we have is, what are the primary factors driving the accelerated rates of coastal erosion globally? And how do they differ between natural and human-induced causes? So what's your take, man?
Well, as I mentioned before, the natural elements, natural disasters would be hurricanes, storms, just rising sea level and all that causing the erosion. So anytime you have a storm, that's threatening to the environment and also the coastal areas, the beachfront property and all that, trees. I've seen entire coconut trees floating in the water, because of the wave action and the erosion. That's the natural. The man-made things are when people decide to build structures, groins or walls, or piling up the concrete blocks or things like that. in their backyard. And what happens when they do that, when the waves come, it hits this hard surface and it goes in a different direction. It doesn't go like a natural direction. So um, by doing that, like let's say one house decides to just build a concrete structure, a wall in their backyard. What happens is the waves get deflected. The next thing you know, the neighbor that doesn't have that, his backyard starts eroding further because the waves get deflected from one house wall and ends up damaging the other guy's yard. And it may not happen like right next door, it may happen a couple doors away. So things like that could happen. So it's man that decides to do these things, and sometimes you don't know which is right and which is wrong. The law says you can't do that, but then how are you going to save your property? And the government's not going to go um, buy up every single beachfront property and relocate these people at the government's cost. First of all, the government doesn't have enough money to do that. Secondly, that's not really a governmental issue. The government's saying, hey, you're the one that bought the property. You wanted beachfront property, so this is your problem now. So, in retrospect, the people didn't know how bad it was. And so I think the government should kind of help out, but I'm not sure help out in a way that you're gonna you're gonna expect the government to buy your property and buy you another house somewhere else that's not near the ocean. I don't think that's gonna happen, but we'll see. But interesting question.
Oh, yes, definitely. Okay, let me hit you with the next one that's coming here for a more local kind of question is how does the erosion of beaches in Hawaii, like Sunset Beach, impact local communities, tourism, and ecosystems, and what sustainable measures are being taken to address it? Hmm.
Well, it's interesting because the majority of tourists come, they want to just see the big waves and go stop at the lunch wagon and eat shave ice and shrimp plates, garlic shrimp or whatever. But they're not too concerned about this issue because there's surveys done, and slowly we're getting there. But um, I don't think it's a tourist concern at this point more than it should be um, the local people and the government. And there's always this fight going on, tug of war between the residents and the government about who's going to do what and what can be done and things like that. People have a right to protect their property, but there's also these environmental laws that come into play as well. That's why the case ends up in the court and let the courts decide what to do. So hopefully that answered that question.
Well, let me just ask something. I thought I just saw something from the governor's office or something where they're adding this new tourist fee to I guess help preserve the local environment or something. So it seems like there's another fee now for the tourists to pay to help enjoy all of our locations. So I just saw something on that. Just kind of curious.
Yeah. I'm happy for that. I'm glad because that money is supposed to go to help uh, the situation that we have when there's too many people here and there's not enough money to maintain our parks and things like that. So, I mean, look what's happening in Europe. Like Venice, they charge like I think last time I checked was either 5 to 10 euros per day to visit Venice. And I mean, when you're a tourist on vacation, that's not going to deter me from going to Venice. I'll pay the 5 to 10 euros a day just to be the tourist, right? So, but that's a deterrent. But if you look at Venice and Barcelona, when these local people are actually approaching the tourists and shooting them with water from their water guns because there's too many tourists. I mean, I agree because I was in Venice and I was in Barcelona several years ago um and other areas, Lisbon, and man, there's like so many tourists. So I told my wife I don't want to go to these places because there's too many people already, right? Let's go someplace quieter. So it's interesting, but it's happening. And um, I agree that too many people is not good, and there should be some kind of tax, right? And so um, Hawaii is a beautiful place, and we don't want to get destroyed because there's too many tourists coming in. But yet, if the tourists don't come in, there goes our economy. So it's kind of a give and take there. But yeah, so you're right. That's what's happening.
Yeah, always trade-offs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me check on the next question here. Question is, what are some of the most effective alternatives to seawalls and other hard structures for mitigating coastal erosion? And can they be applied universally? You talked about something, the sand grabber thing, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's actually something new that just got invented, and it's called I don't know what the term is, but what they do is they scientists develop this and they use electricity and in electricity in the sand, and the voltage is really low. It's they say the voltage is so low, it's equivalent to like a kid's toy flashlight. So it's not like, plugging something into the electrical outlet of your house. It's way lower than that. But what happens, the idea behind that is you put electricity in the sand, and what happens is the sand becomes hard. So it almost turns the loose sand into hard concrete kind of thing.
Mm.
And they're they're they've done tests and all that, and I haven't seen it done commercially yet, but we'll see what happens with that. So that might be an idea. I don't think it. I think I like that idea. I don't think it's going to work at every single circumstance, but we'll see what happens, right? The concern I have is um, what happens when you do that, right? You don't know what kind of marine creatures are in that area. So if you're gonna shock them, they're gonna die, right? So I don't know. I mean, they may become fossils in the future, but who knows? But I think um, the progress is being made to try and figure out all these different methods to help the situation. So the idea would be, oh, okay, if my house is on a cliff ready to fall down because the sand's eroding, hey, let's try to do that and make the sand solid so my house doesn't fall off the cliff or fall into the ocean, that kind of thing. So we'll see. I mean, with progress, there's always pros and cons. So we'll see what happens in the future with that idea.
Okay, well, it sounds interesting. Yeah, I was kind of wondering how was that going to work? What was it going to do to benefit the homeowners or the shoreline people? But yeah, so what you're saying is they would actually create a cement wall under whatever with the sand, so that would hopefully keep the erosion from continuing. Yeah.
Yeah, so instead of constructing a new rock wall or new concrete wall with rebar and all that, you preserve the natural element and you just make it more solid. So that's the whole idea,
Yeah,
right?
sounds interesting. Yeah, yeah, I mean, you build a wall of sand and then you electrify it and it becomes a solid wall, something like
Yeah,
that.
so we'll see what happens.
Oh, interesting. Okay, sounds good. All right, what's our next question here? This one is asking, with rising sea levels and intensifying storms due to climate change, How can governments and communities better prepare to adapt to the ongoing and future impacts of coastal erosion? So what sounds like, are there preventive measures that can be done maybe to
Right
reduce the
now, I don't see any, right? So, like, like for you and I, we live on a mountain, basically. We don't live near the ocean, right? So the idea would be, oh, well, if your house is at the beach, well, move it to the mountain. Well, it's not like that. You can't just come out and say such a thing because realistically, that's not going to work, right? You can't pick up a house or building and relocate it. First of all, where's the like if you live in Hawaii, where's the land you're going to move your house to, right? If you can even move your house, right? Let's say you can't. Well, what do you do? So the idea would be, well, I mean, if it's so bad, you're just going to have to leave your property there and kind of expand it further away from the beach. But how do you do that, right? When there's a road right there. So the government's talking about relocating roads that are too close to uh, the coastal shoreline and moving it inward. But can you imagine how many millions of dollars it's going to take? Billions of dollars to do that. If you're in California and you went on Highway 101, you see how many miles and miles of roads are on the coast, nice view and everything, but believe it or not, some of them are too close. So they're going to have to reroute that. That's going to take billions of dollars to do that. And who's going to pay for that, right? The government is going to pay for it, but who funds the government? It's the people, the public, right? So we'll see what happens.
Okay, yeah, it's a tough one, yeah.
Right.
Okay, this next question seems to kind of follow up to that is what role can local communities play in reducing the impacts of coastal erosion and advocating for sustainable coastal management practices? Hmm. Sounds
Well,
like a government question again.
Well, actually, public awareness and the government, this is my personal opinion, is not really doing a good job in this coastal erosion, climate change issue, because if you look at um the approvals that the government's giving to these developers developing properties in areas that need to be protected and all that, I don't think the government's really doing a good job. I think the government should step it up and do a better job. Um, but it's kind of like, okay, we need more housing. We need affordable housing. So let's build already. Let's build because we have a big homeless population. We need affordable housing. So it's a trade-off, right? Instead of not building in this area, I think we should just build and kind of forget about environmental factors and all that. So it's another trade-off that um, comes about, but I don't know. We'll see. But I think more public awareness would be good, and not just like, well, my house isn't at the beach, so I shouldn't be concerned, right? But it's going to affect everybody because if you, like, for instance, if you live in Hawaii and your house is not at the beach, but there's some development going on, or they got to move a road or whatever, you're going to end up paying for it in taxes. Okay. For instance, guess what? If you're not aware, your your sewer bill is going to go sky high, right? And the government needs money to pay for new infrastructure. Where are they going to get the money from, right? They're going to get the money from you. So it's going to increase. It's sort of like a tax, but they call it a fee or sewer surcharge. It's basically your tax for everything, right? You got to pay property taxes if you own your own house, right? In addition to paying property taxes, you have to pay your utility bill. And your electric bill is high if you don't have PV or solar. And then your water bill may not be that high, but your sewer bill is high and it's going to keep going up. So when the government needs funding for different things, they're thinking about ways to get their money, right? Like trash pickup. Have you heard of the government deciding to charge you for trash pickup? Can you imagine getting a bill every month, like you get your electric bill or water bill, and there's a trash refuse bill, and it's by how many cans they pick up, and you're gonna get like one refuse bill, and it's gonna be divided into three: your regular trash, your green, and your recycles. So believe it or not, it costs money to pay for the city to pick up your recycles. Is it even worth it? Right? So it's interesting, but I know one condo community that voted to not even recycle anymore because it costs too much to pay for somebody to gather the recycles and then haul it to the recycle place. They're like, it just, we're paying more to have somebody do that. So you know what? Well, forget about recycling. Just have everybody throw their recycles in the trash and let the city deal with it. So it's coming to that point. It's like a money issue. So, Martin, we got any other questions or comments?
Oh, no, that's all that I see, but like you say, everything comes down to a money issue. Doesn't matter what it is, yeah. So, and if you don't have it, well, they're going to give you a tax or increase your fees. So that's the way of the world these days.
Yeah, that's right. So if you guys are interested in this coastal erosion thing or sea level rise and all that, there's movies that are out there, and I heard of people making more movies. And if not movies, if you go on different websites, they have these models, these like 3D models of what's happening. And I've seen the one in Hawaii where they show like Waikiki and Kaka'ako all underwater. I mean, it's kind of scary when you see these models and they superimpose the water on the map and stuff. And um, but it's true. I don't see it not happening in the future. So, but something's going to have to be done. And in these resort areas, and I'm not only talking about Waikiki, every island has their own resort area that's on the water. What happens to these areas in the future, right? I even looked at the same similar map in the United States, and um, almost all of California was underwater, and Florida and all that. So uh, it's kind of scary. I've even seen another map where they had a future earthquake at the San Andreas Fault, and uh, half of the state of California ended up landing in the water because of the earthquake, and then you only had the inland part that was still left over. So probably there's going to be a movie about that. You know how these movie producers think about these kind of things. Right now, it's going to be Jaws and other scary movies like that. But
So,
I
so
heard,
Lance, these are sound like simulation systems to kind of predict how it's going to look or along the coast in whatever 5 years, 10 years, 100 years, and whatever kind of thing. Yeah, that's what
right.
it sounds like. You
Yeah.
have you have a you have a site for that? That'd be something.
I don't have it offhand. I just found some sites online.
Yeah.
And then the scary one was the nuclear bomb. When there's a nuclear uh, war going on and every country starts sending off their nukes,
Mm.
and there's a site I saw for that, and you look at like parts of the world gone, and it's kind of a gruesome sight. But
You're
I
right. I mean,
was,
those are all simulation models, and you know where those are coming from now? They're using AI
oh yeah,
to
yeah,
predict all of this stuff, and it's predictions, but the accuracy of those AI models and simulations are are, you know, they have high probability rates, you know, well above 50%, up to 80, 90% accuracy of those things. So that's, I mean, it's something to be concerned about. And I think what you're doing here to really bring the awareness to everybody is important because, like you say, this is all coming. It's just a matter of when. Yeah, it's a matter of timing. Yeah,
That's right. So even if the AI simulations aren't exactly correct, the idea is this gonna happen or not? I'm talking about the sea level rise and all that. I'm not talking
right,
about the nuclear bombs and
right.
whatnot. Um, so we'll see, right? But um, getting back to the topic at hand, it's not going to go away. So just be more aware and do your research. And we spend a lot of time and money doing research on our topics, so we can provide you valuable information that is fact checked and it's true. So that's where we come from. We don't want to be um, giving a webinar where we're making up stories and not giving you correct information. So I know it's about time, so we want to thank you for attending our webinar. If you have any questions or comments, please post it to the various social media sites. If you have any ideas for any future webinar topics, just reach out to us and we'll have a little powwow and discuss it and see what we want to do. So appreciate you guys attending. Those of you are on our Zoom platform and from other parts of the world, I'm happy that you guys spent your time with us, and we're happy to share the information. So until then, we'll see you at the next webinar.